Jen can turn it on. Good afternoon. We'll go ahead and start the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission for Wednesday, May 7th, 2025. Can we have a roll call?
Danielle Henderson. Here. Michael Widmer.
Present.
Bill Hauk. Casey Menser.
Here.
John Enlow.
Here.
He's on Zoom.
Here.
Okay. Yes. Okay. John Flansburgh.
Present.
Mylin Nguyen. She's there. Amber Sosa. Here. Chris Melton.
Oh, this is Mylin present. Sorry.
Here.
Chris Melton.
Here.
Eric Crump.
Here.
Donna Noel. Cara Steelan. Here. We have a quorum.
Very good. We'll go ahead and move to item number 2 in the, well, actually, I'd like to recognize Amber Sosa, who is going to be representing the city of Sparks. Amber is their city engineer. So welcome, Amber, to the Northern Nevada Planning Commission, Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission. So we'll go ahead and start with public comment. Do we have any public comments, Jen? None registered? All right. Then we'll close item 2 and move on to approval of the agenda. May I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Melton.
Widmer, second.
Second by Commissioner Widmer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Move to item number 4, approval of the minutes from the March 5th, 2025 Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission meeting.
Move to approve the minutes.
Okay, motion to approve. Commissioner Crump. Do I have a second?
Second, Steeland.
Second by Commissioner Steeland. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Now we'll move on to item number 5, Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission Resolution 2501. Kim.
Make sure my mic is hot. Thank you, Chairman. Kim Rigdon for the record. Members of the commission, our beloved member from the city of Sparks, Michael Drinkwater, who is sitting in the audience today joining us, has retired. And we would like to honor him with a few comments and a resolution of appreciation. And I'd like to start by just saying I've had the sincere pleasure of knowing Michael Drinkwater since college. So to round out our careers, sitting in the Washoe County chambers at these board meetings has been a little bit of a ride at the end. I'm sure more for him than me. Michael is really detail-oriented and very helpful to staff. He's supportive and kind and generous, and our staff has had it's been a sincere pleasure for our staff to work with him over the years. And with that, I wanted to give Member Menser an opportunity to read the resolution into record, and then the commission can make some comments.
Thank you, Ms. Rigdon. For the record, Casey Menser, Treatment Plant Manager at the Truckee Meadows Water Reclamation Facility. So resolution number 2501, Resolution of Appreciation and Recognition of Service, Michael Drinkwater. Whereas Michael Drinkwater has served as a valued member of the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission since December 5th, 2012, and has exemplified leadership, professionalism, and dedication in his oversight of a wide range of water-related issues. And whereas Michael's contributions have not only benefited the commission, but also positively influenced the community, colleagues, and all those who have had the privilege of working with them. And whereas Michael's experience and technical skills have served as an invaluable resource in advancing the vision of water resources in the Truckee Meadows, and whereas Michael's renowned candor has provided for authentic conversations amongst the commission and has promoted greater regional collaboration, and whereas Michael has showcased his love and appreciation for water resources with his expansive career, holding positions ranging from park ranger at Lahontan Reservoir, Sparks Environmental Control Officer, design engineer for water and wastewater systems, and manager of both the Reno Stead and Truckee Meadows water reclamation facilities. And now, therefore, it is resolved that the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission hereby express its heartfelt appreciation and gratitude to Michael Drinkwater for his exemplary service and dedication to the commission and the community. Be it further resolved that the Commission extends its best wishes to Michael as he retires and focuses his attention on the next chapter in his family's life, confident in the knowledge that his contributions will continue to have a positive impact on water resource planning and sustainability efforts in Washoe County.
All right. So I'm going to take executive privilege here and offer the motion up of this resolution for approval by the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission. Do I have a second? We have a second from Commissioner Widmer. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Do we have at least one nay? Okay, I guess not.
I'll vote no.
Okay, thank you, John. I figured it's Michael, for crying out loud. All right.
know, exactly.
So motion carries. And Michael, it's been a pleasure to have the opportunity to work with you throughout these years. And let's just say that your sense of humor, while not always appreciated, was certainly helped to lighten the load amongst us in many of our discussions pre-commission and during commission. So thank you so much.
Tell if this is on. Is that on? Okay. Well, I want to say thank you. But the staff from Sparks knows I only wear Hawaiian shirts on Fridays, but now every day is, Saturday, sort of. So I just took the liberty. I hope, and I thought you might be disappointed if I wore anything other than a Hawaiian shirt. And the best part, well, okay, maybe not the best part, but I've recently learned one of the great things about retirement is when you call the DMV or your doctor, your dentist for an appointment, and they say, Tuesday, 3:45, you say, okay. What about 10 o'clock on Thursday? Yeah, that works too. Anyway, if I've done anything valuable, it is for two reasons. One, because of the people sitting in front of me, as well as the folks behind me, Trina, Danny, 1,000 people who I couldn't possibly name all of them, but I want to call out just a few. Robert Lee, Scott Nelson, Stan Schumacher, Dave Brandt, John Martini. Yes, I'm going to go here. Neil Kreutz. I learned a lot of things from Neil. Some I want to do, some maybe, but you see, there's that sense of humor. I know, and it was my job. Once Darren Price left the commission, it was my job to be the naysayer and to be the pot stirrer. Let's call it that. But I want to thank each and every one of you for your friendship, for your mentorship, for just the support, the occasional get your head out of your backside conversations from all of you that helped me get to the finish line, I think, in good form. And I thank each and every one of you for that. And I leave knowing I said this at Tumwarth the other day, and I truly believe it. The staff at the plant has raised the bar so much, I couldn't get my old job back. I don't qualify for it. For that, I take exceptional pride in at least having enough sense to hire Casey Menser and Amber Sosa at the City of Sparks. And the rest of it will take care of itself with the fabulous, intelligent, motivated, dedicated team that I'm looking at right here. So thank you very much for everything.
Thank you, Michael. Michael, is your mic still hot? Okay, very good. We are dealing with a new audio system, and so the any comments that are made, even little sidebars, are easily to pick up on the and will be transcribed for everyone to see. So just trying to make that comment here so people understand. Anyone else? Any other comments on this item? Michael, I do agree that your hiring has exceeded your legacy. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Michael. All right, we'll move on to item number 6, action, discussion, possible direction to staff and approval of a scope of work and funding not to exceed $24,660 from the Regional Water Management Fund for a professional services agreement with Resource Concepts, Inc. to update Chapter 5, Stormwater and Watershed-Based Water Quality Planning of the Regional Water Management Plan.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Birgit,
Chairman.
thank you.
Members of the Commission, Birgit Whittegren for the record. As the Commission is aware, staff is updating the Regional Water Management Plan. And to support this effort, we're asking for a professional services agreement of $24,660 with Resource Concept Incorporated. to assist with the update of Chapter 5, Stormwater and Watershed-Based Water Quality Planning. RCI has provided ongoing support in the region since 2015 when they were contracted with the Nevada Division of Environmental Protection. And with that, I would like to introduce Jill Sutherland, Senior Engineer representing RCI. Thank you.
Is the microphone on? Okay. Hi, I'm Jill Sutherland, and with Resource Concepts, I thought I'd take just a minute to touch bases on who Resource Concept is. We're a small consulting firm, about 50 people, located in Carson City. That's our main office. We also have a small office up at Lake Tahoe, and we've been in business here in Nevada for almost 50 years. The 4 pillars of our firm are water rights, civil engineering, surveying, and resource management / environmental services. And that's the group I'm with. I've been the director for that group for about 5 years now. And we are just thrilled to be here to give you this proposal. We did work with Kim and Birgit quite a bit in like 2016 through 2020, working on the Source Water Protection Non-Point Source Plan, which is your current digital plan that's been adopted, regionally by folks. And a lot of folks in this room have been very effective at moving that plan forward. It's been great to see. I think we could do a good job with the Chapter 5 update because we're really familiar with the planning framework, here in the Truckee Meadows. We've also been involved in quite a few of the projects that are watershed-based and moving that water quality protection forward, not just with your stormwater program, but also with your source water protection and watershed management program. We're excited to embrace the digital plan. We did help with the plan currently hosted by TMRPA that we were talking about before, and so we've been through those hoops before. And if you look at our proposal, you notice it's a little bit heavy on coordination. Like tasks 1, 2, and 3 are all about working with the WRWC staff and the other technical experts that are going to be working on sections of the plan to make sure what we prepare is consistent and points to the other sections. We've also been involved in countywide planning throughout the state, and we know how that goes. And a lot of it is a commitment of the technical service providers and assistants to stick to the plan and schedule and working with the other partners really closely. And we thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Jill. And I'd like to turn it back to discussion with the commission.
All right, thank you. And thank you, Jill.
Yes, any questions? I'll come right back up.
Very good. All right, we have a proposal in front of us for RCI to provide services related to the Regional Water Management Plan. Do we have any discussion or a motion? We're a quiet group today. I will say that I've had the pleasure of working with RCI on several projects in the past, and they've always performed well for us, and this certainly is a strength that they have, so I don't have any reservations myself. Kim?
Thank you, Chairman. Kim Rigdon for the record. One of the things that's going to really help us with the Regional Water Management Plan update, particularly with this section, is that RCI is currently also a technical assistance provider for NDEP. And so they'll be able to help us really connect the dots on, are projects fundable? How do we get those projects funded? Are they meeting the requirements of the various programs at NDEP? So I just wanted to add that. It's one of the reasons that we were excited that they came forward with the proposal. So thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion to approve from Commissioner Mincer. Is there a second?
Second, Steeland.
Second from Commissioner Steeland. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Motion carries. Thank you. We'll move on then next to item number 7, presentation report and possible direction to staff on the Cold Springs water balance. Kim.
Thank you, Chairman. Kim Rigdon for the record. Members of the commission, so Stantec is working on the Cold Springs Valley water balance analysis, which was prioritized by the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission, and the WRWC is funding through the Regional Water Management Fund. Director Smith with the Washoe County Engineering and Capital Projects group is managing the project, and Claire Archer is here as a hydrologist with Stantec, who has created the model, and we're looking forward to their presentation. Claire and Dwayne.
Good afternoon. For the record, Dwayne Smith, Washoe County. I just wanted to introduce Claire, but before we get started, I just wanted to remind everybody and certainly want to do a little shout out to all involved, the support for this project. This project was really conceived to understand the relationship between the ground and surface water hydrology within a closed basin area, to understand what the impacts of new development are on that, and to help make the best decisions as we navigate those challenging processes. So the agreement, the scope of work that we have with Claire has allowed us to get to this place. We're about 45% into the budget, and we do have next steps, but we wanted to take this opportunity to bring an update to you. I'll definitely turn the floor over to the expert, Claire, so thank you.
Thanks, Dwayne. Hi, everyone. I'm Claire Archer. I'm a hydrogeologist at Stantec, and I'll be walking through just an overview of the work completed to date in part of this project, including, could we go to the next slide, please? Oh, do I advance? Yeah. Okay, perfect. Is it this one?
Yeah, should be that one.
There we go. So the items completed to date include a hydrogeologic conceptual model of the basin, a review of an existing groundwater model completed by Pateau and Associates, and then we developed a basin-wide groundwater and surface water for the model for the basin, and I'm going to go over just an overview of how that model was constructed, the calibration, and the results of the modeling work. So the first step for this project was to develop a hydrogeologic conceptual model, and this included reviewing and synthesizing all existing information related to the basin hydrology, land use, geology, and the principal aquifers and aquatards. Main part of this work was to identify data gaps and areas of uncertainty that require more analysis, or areas where there could be more uncertainty in the groundwater modeling. And when the main result from the data gap analysis was that there is a lack of knowledge of how the north part of the basin and the southern part of the basin are hydraulically connected to each other. And this relates directly to the sediments beneath White Lake to depth, and the permeability or lack of permeability caused by faulting south of White Lake. The model review that we conducted was on the recent groundwater model that was developed by Pateau and Associates for the Cold Springs Basin. And while we did not agree with all of the assumptions that went into this model, it still is a very helpful first start, compiling more information for us to use and providing another view of how the system should be modeled. So the modeling that we conducted, it was composed of a groundwater model and a surface water model that are linked. The modeling codes that we used for this work are open source, developed by the USGS. The surface water model was developed using the Precipitation Runoff Modeling System, or PRMS. And the groundwater model was developed using the ModFlow modeling code, specifically ModFlow NWT, or the Newton formulation. The purpose of this modeling work specifically is to create a tool that can be used to run scenarios related to potential future changes in water balance within the basin. So the first part of the modeling effort was to develop the surface water model. That's because the results of the surface water modeling feed directly as inputs into the groundwater model. So the PRMS model accounts for, the water budget accounts for all water into and out of the system, so it's mass conservative. The main components of the PRMS model include runoff, infiltration, and recharge. So this table shows the results of the work for this study in that top row, and I compared these results to 3 previous groups that have estimated these same components. So runoff and recharge are the main components that were the outcomes of this study. And as you can see, this is how they compare to other groups estimating these. And the work by Huntington in 2020 is the work that's recognized by the state engineer. A couple important notes when you're looking at these numbers. So the older work conducted by Van Denberg and Rush and Glancy, their look at runoff did not quantify the proportion of runoff that infiltrates into the groundwater system. This was just the amount of water that they estimated was coming off the mountain block. Then Huntington estimated that approximately 250 acre-feet per year of mountain front runoff infiltrates via stream channel infiltration, and the remainder of mountain front runoff, or the value listed here, runs off into White Lake. So in this study, the runoff into White Lake was handled separately, and the value listed here is the amount that's infiltrating as recharge from runoff. The groundwater model, this is going into the construction of that component. The figure on the right here shows 2 boundaries. So the blue line is the boundary for the Cold Springs Hydrographic Basin. That is the model domain for the PRMS model, so the surface water model considered this entire area. The mod flow model, or the groundwater portion, considered the smaller area in the black hatching. And the groundwater model domain encompassed all of the unconsolidated sediment within the hydrographic basin. So that's the area that's capable of storing and transmitting groundwater. And the model grid was subdivided into 200-foot by 200-foot grid cells. And that's the hatching that you see here. If we zoomed in, you could see the individual grid cells, but the resolution's quite fine at this scale. The model simulation period for the transient model was water years 1999 through 2023. The model domain was subdivided into 5 layers. The bottom of the model, or bedrock, was determined from a number of sources. These included work provided by Mike Widmer that he did at the basin, including airborne geophysical survey data, land-based gravity survey data, and in the southern part of the basin, south of White Lake, where the groundwater aquifer is mostly a fracture flow system, and these sources showed results of depth to bedrock being shallower than what we actually wanted to include in the model. We used boring logs to determine where groundwater is in the system south of White Lake. So the figure on the right shows an interpolated surface of the bedrock elevation from these data sources. So the divisions for the remaining 5 layers were assigned using data from boring logs and existing cross-sections where available. Lumos and Associates developed a cross-section from their work south of White Lake. And as part of this work, we developed a cross-section using boring logs for the area north of White Lake. And this was to investigate the extent of clay layers and lenses that that exist in this part of the basin and to determine how continuous they are. So on the right, this is showing where the cross-section is located. You see A is located to the north near the Swigger Well, and then A prime, the other end of the cross-section, is just at White Lake. The boring logs that were included are ones that were the deepest ones that are available, so more than 100 feet deep. So this cross-section, you see A on the left and A prime on the right, and the tan with straight lines are the clay or fine-grained layers, and then the rest are coarser-grained layers, and you can see some small red question marks. This is where we don't, the lateral extents of the clay is unknown because of the limited information, the unlimited number of boring logs or data points that we have. So you can see that while there are extensive clay layers, they're not completely continuous, so we find locally confined conditions in this part of the basin. The boundary conditions in the groundwater model are places where water is entering or leaving the groundwater domain. And the figure on the right shows the boundary conditions that were defined for this model. Aerial recharge from precipitation is not shown on this because this was applied to the entire model grid. And then evapotranspiration was applied to zones where there's phreatophyte vegetation, and I'll go over that in the next slide. The other boundary conditions that we simulated include pumping at municipal wells, which are shown in green. We also simulated pumping from domestic wells, but there are many of these, so they're not shown on this figure. We simulated underflow from the Long Valley groundwater basin, which is the groundwater basin just to the west. Those are the orange squares. We simulated mountain front recharge, which is recharge like I showed in that original PRMS table slide. So that's where runoff from the surrounding mountain front, the point where it reaches the valley floor and infiltrates. Those are the yellow lines. We simulated infiltration from the rapid infiltration basins at the Cold Springs Wastewater Reclamation Facility, the north part of the basin, stormwater detention basins in the north. White Lake was simulated using the lake package in ModFlow, which I won't go to in detail, but we are able to simulate the lake stage or lake level through time, and this was an additional calibration point for the model. We simulated faults using the horizontal flow barrier package, so the red lines are places where faults are barriers to groundwater flow. There are more faults in the basin that likely serve as conduits to groundwater flow, but those aren't shown in this figure. And then the streams that we simulated were Waltz and Jones Creek, and those are in the south part of the basin. So evaporation was applied in the model in three ways. First, the evaporation or evapotranspiration of precipitation within the unsaturated zone before it reaches groundwater. So rain falling on the surface that doesn't infiltrate, it evaporates rapidly, which we all know happens a lot in Nevada. This was simulated in the PRMS model, so the surface water model accounted for this. And this evaporation was subtracted from the precipitation amount to result in the amount of recharge that was applied. Evaporation from White Lake was simulated using the lake package. And then evapotranspiration of groundwater. So this is where plants that have rooting depths that can extend all the way to the groundwater table are using groundwater directly. This was applied in the ModFlow model in these blue-purple polygons here where phreatophyte vegetation has been mapped. So the model calibration, the calibration of the model is where the model simulated fluxes and groundwater levels are matched to the observed groundwater levels. This process occurs by adjusting parameters in the model, including the hydraulic conductivity, specific yield, specific storage, and the conductance of certain boundary conditions. And these are adjusted until a satisfactory match is achieved between the observed and simulated levels. The groundwater levels were calibrated using 21 monitoring wells, which are shown on the right. The colors signify the depth of the monitoring well and the model layer that they were used to calibrate. So the red is model layer 1, the green are deeper wells, it's calibrating model layer 3, and the purple is layer 2. And I'll just go through a few of the hydrographs showing the results of the calibration. This just gives you, to give you a snapshot of the results. So these first 2 wells, I'll go back. The Swieger well is located in the north. It's a deeper well located adjacent to the wastewater reclamation facility. And then 5S is located at the reclamation facility. You can see that the calibration adequately matches the seasonal variation that is caused by pumping at the Swieger well. And then 5S, the simulated is in blue, the red is observed, and you can see that the model adequately matches the amount of groundwater mounding that has been observed at the wastewater reclamation facility to date. The Headley well and the Powerline well are located in the south part of the basin. The Headley well is just southwest of White Lake, and Powerline is on the west part of the basin there. The Headley well, you can see that the observed water levels fluctuate a bit more than the simulated. And for both of these wells, that likely is due to pumping that might not be captured by the model. For the Powerline well, it's located more to the west, which is adjacent to the Long Valley Groundwater Basin, where Great Basin Water Company operates 2, I don't know, they're not on this map, but so you can see just over the border, that black border there, Great Basin's water wells 6 and 8 are operating, but because those are not located within this groundwater basin, we didn't simulate them in the model, but they likely have a role on water levels in that part of the basin. So this graph shows the model simulated water budget. So just to clarify, this is the groundwater budget. So these are the fluxes into and out of groundwater, whereas the table that I showed in the beginning was the water budget for the surface water components. So this is showing the change in the water budget through time over the model simulation period, so from 1999 through 2023. And just to define a couple terms, when we're talking about groundwater budgets, we have a storage in and storage out terms, and those are where the aquifer is releasing water to and from storage. So storage in, it's a bit convoluted, but storage in actually shows times when the groundwater table is lowering, and storage out shows when the groundwater table is rising. So you can see in years with a lot of precipitation, like 2017, you see an increase, a large amount of storage out where the water levels are increasing, and you can also see high values for at the mountain front recharge components coming in, and a large amount of flux to White Lake. So the major components of the water budget that we can see in this figure, not excluding storage in and storage out, include that runoff to White Lake, ET, and then that mountain front recharge component. So the next step in this work for us is first incorporating additional monitoring data for the area south of White Lake into the model. Lumos actually has collected more data that would be useful to improve the model in that area. And then the next task will be to work with stakeholders to develop scenarios that can be run using the model to investigate how future development or changes in hydrologic conditions may alter the water budget balance in the Cold Springs Basin. And that's all I have. But I'm happy to answer any questions. I ran through that quite fast, so if you have any questions, let me know.
All right, thank you for the presentation. Questions? Dwayne,
John.
why don't you share your thoughts with us here? I had some questions, but I don't have a presentation in front of me to go back. But I was curious on the differences of the 2020 model that has been accepted and what you're finding and what the obviously you have your next steps, so you want to incorporate some additional information in, but just curious on some of those changes that we're seeing there between the recharge numbers and the inflows. But if you want to address that, but
Sure. Well, that table. I can just speak to it without going to it. The table, like I described, the values in the table might be misleading for the difference between recharge in our study versus their study. The difference between what Huntington found in 2020 and in our study in terms of actual recharge to the infiltration to the groundwater system was not was relatively low. His was about 250 and ours was, I believe, 650. There it goes. Acre feet per year. And we did look at a slightly different subset of years. I should have pointed that out too. Those are annual averages. So ours was 1999 through 2023, and I don't recall what his were. So I would say that the differences between our study and his study are within, the range of error for these two methods for estimating.
I mean, one of the largest things that points out to me is the recharge percentage of the amount of the recharge from precipitation, than the other items, and then of course the runoff numbers are much lower in your study, and you kind of went through some of those items, but it was just those were some things that just kind of caught my attention. I get that there are different precipitation amounts that you're using from the other ones.
So like the note says here, so the 1,301 acre feet per year, that's the amount that Huntington estimated runs off to White Lake. He estimated that 250 acre feet per year of that infiltrates groundwater, and the 652 value is the amount that we estimated of runoff that is infiltrating. So the runoff to White Lake is not included in that estimate. It's a bit complicated in the system. Runoff has many caveats to it. You can't just say runoff and compare apples to apples to apples. That's why I tried to point that out. But I think another thing to note is that this model, we calibrated it using the available gauge data in the basin, which was quite limited at the time that we were developing this. And it had the gauge data was from 2 water years at Waltz and Jones Creeks that Lumos had collected. And we recently spoke with them and found that they have collected significantly more gauge data than that could potentially be used to refine these estimates and provide better calibration of this model.
That's helpful as we understanding the limitations of the data sets that you had and what would be more helpful and what is, that's good to know that there's some additional information that is available.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Chair, John Enlow has his hand up.
Yes, John, please.
Hi, thank you. Very good presentation. I appreciate it. A couple of questions. One related to the data that you used for the water levels in White's Lake. What data did you use?
What are you referring to? Calibrating the lake stages at White's Lake?
Correct.
I did not actually have stage data, which is, I'm sure, why you're asking this question. But I did use satellite imagery just to determine what years or what times there was water present, what times there was not standing water present. So the calibration wasn't I guess I should have clarified that, wasn't a numeric calibration of lake stage. It was more of a check to determine, is the model correctly simulating when water is present versus when it's absent.
Okay, there may be a data set available. Former Commissioner Michael DiMartini has personally collected stage data on White's Lake for many years, that I've been told anyway. And so I think he would probably be one I believe he's still a water rights holder to some of the water in White's Lake, that would be one of the stakeholders involved in this process as we go forward. So I would expect that he would likely be willing to make that data available.
Oh, that would be quite helpful. Yeah, that would be great.
A second question, just more from my own interest, is from your perspective, do you think the aquifer would be suitable for aquifer storage and recovery? And if so, where?
I think where is the critical question there, because like I mentioned and showed with that cross section, that there are numerous clay units present, but not in all parts of the basin, and in some parts of the basin there are quite permeable deposits. I think that is quite a large question and almost deserves its own analysis, but I would cautiously say yes, but it's going to be very location dependent.
Okay, a couple more questions, Chairman, if you don't mind. You said you got
please continue.
Some data from Loomis. There was also a number of test wells drilled on the Stonegate property. Was that data available to you or not?
I used the data for the boring logs that they took, and the testing that they did. I had a report that included that data. They also have groundwater level monitoring data at those wells that I did not have at the time of constructing this model, but they've offered to share.
Okay, thank you. And then lastly, a question for Dwayne, and I'm sure you were going to get into it, but I'm curious about next steps, stakeholder groups, timing, and so forth.
Yeah, John, that's exactly right. So first, we wanted to go through the development of the ground and surface water model. And again, thank you, Claire, for stepping us through and sharing with us a lot of the technical details, because I think it's really important to build confidence in any model because of those various stakeholders that we have within the basin. And so that's the next steps, John, are to continue to add some of these elements. And I appreciate the comments, and I saw Mike nodding his head in concurrence about Michael DiMartini's data set. So these are the types of things that we need to add in, that we need to incorporate into the model, because it really is, in my opinion, important that all the stakeholders have confidence in this model going forward. As we move through the process of now engaging with those stakeholders, then developing scenarios. And that's really the next important step past the model update, is to get everybody together and talk about what those scenarios are, what is the importance, what things that we should be looking for as we develop those scenarios, run those scenarios, and then be able to continue to ask and answer questions. That's the real purpose of what this model is for, is to help us understand better how closed basins operate, how the different influences between new development, existing development, importation, wastewater treatment facilities, how we're managing our effluent, how all these factors affect these closed basins. And then again, as I've said before in front of this group, in front of the Western Regional Water Commission, that our intent is to take this knowledge and information and then use it in other locations as well. So I hope that helps a little bit, John, with what your thought process was.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it very much and really appreciate kind of the county stepping up and taking the lead on kind of overseeing this modeling effort. You and I have been talking about this for a long time, and so nice to see it moving forward and looking forward to the next steps.
Thank you. Thank you, Claire.
All right. Are there any more questions? Okay, with that, this was set up as a presentation, so I don't, no action is required. So thank you, Claire. Thank you, Dwayne. Appreciate that. Let's move on then to item number 8, presentation report regarding progress and status of Nevada Water Innovation Institute studies and projects supported by the Regional Water Management Fund. Kim.
Thank you, Chairman. Kim Rigdon for the record. Members of the Commission, the Nevada Water Innovation Institute is funded with 2 separate interlocal agreements through the WRWC Regional Water Management Fund. One of the agreements is to support regional partners in regional coordination and leadership for the advanced purified water projects, but also with other regional planning efforts and technical assistance. The other contract is really to support One Water Nevada collaborative in enhanced source control, developing enhanced source control plans for the different water reclamation facilities, and then doing some monitoring and sampling under those plans. And with that, I'd really like to turn the time over to our gracious guests, Dr. Krishna Pagila, who is the director of the Nevada Water Innovation Institute, and Dr. Laura Hawk, who is a research scientist providing technical assistance under these agreements with the Western Regional Water Commission. Dr. Pagila.
Thank you, Ms. Rigdon. Mr. Chair, for the record, my name is Krishna Pagila. I'm a professor at UNR as well as the director of the Nevada Water Innovation Institute. And I have with me here my colleague, Dr. Laura Hawk, senior research scientist with the Nevada Water Innovation Institute. We would like to give you an update, starting with some broader update of the Nevada Water Innovation Institute. I know there are a few commissioners who are new to this board, so I want them to know who we are. Mr. Smith just left, I believe. He's the chair of the Nevada Water Innovation Institute Board of Advisors. And Trina Magoon from City of Reno is the vice chair, and I am the director, and I have associate director, Dr. Marchand. And Laura and Dr. Lindley and Baram Wahidi are the core research group. And we use several students and faculty from the university to do the projects that we have through you or through the founding agencies of the Nevada Water Innovation Institute. I always want to show this to the timeline because this commission is really what started the Nevada Water Innovation Institute back in 2016. You funded a project called Advanced Water Technologies Demonstration, which was conducted at the county's South Rocky Meadows Water Reclamation Facility as well as at Reno State facilities. And that project really was exploring the feasibility of potable reuse, indirect potable reuse in the North Valleys. And an important product of that was Laura worked on her PhD on that project, and now she's a research scientist still staying in our region and contributing to the project. And following that project, which was a collaborative effort, we felt that there is a need for a platform where the agencies and the university can come together, and that led to the founding of NWII in 2017. Chair Flansburgh, you were in the first meetings, and Michael Drinkwater left already. I would have given some choice words about him as well, but I'll save that for tomorrow's board meeting of NWII. So I'm just showing a list of things, and many of these projects were funded by Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission and as well as Western Regional Water Commission. So and the founding members have contributed to it both in kind and funds to support the researchers and students who worked on these projects. So we fast forward to today. The 2 projects, as Ms. Rigdon mentioned are the Regional Water Management Coordination, and Dr. Hawk will talk about that a little bit more, and also the Regional Enhanced Source Control Monitoring Project. And some of you were there last week at the, this week? Last week. So at the second Truckee River Watershed Symposium, which we are conducting under the Regional Water Management Coordination Project. Not moving forward. Next slide, Jen. Thank you. So our current efforts in broader sense are the One Water Nevada Advanced Water Purified Water Program support. We continue to provide support to that. I'll briefly talk about that. The Regional Water Management Program, Regional Effluent Management Guidance, Truckee River Watershed Symposium, Enhanced Source Control Plan, and some other activities which are part of the broader institute goals, including workforce development and training to the staff of the founding agencies. The Advanced Water Program, as you know, it is very close to implementation with the design completed. We are continuing to provide support as and when needed. Laura and I are participating in independent advisory panel meetings and any support that is needed for that. But also we are working on improvements to the treatment train, understanding that a little better, including how we integrate the enhanced source control monitoring data into the designs and sharing it with the design team in addressing that in their designs. Of course, the outcome is the project itself. The second aspect of part of that activity is that if you remember, there is a trailer, that One Water Nevada trailer, which is used for demonstration work that's lying idle at the Reno State facility now. So in anticipation of having a One Water Nevada collaborative center at the APWF facilities next to Reno State, we are reviving that trailer with building the treatment train within one single trailer, and we've done a lot of work since the time that we finished the demonstration work to really figure out what are some of the things that we need to study. As we speak, that trailer has been refurbished, and we are putting in units that will allow us to continue to investigate what is going to go in the ground in the One Water Nevada project. So, I mean, I won't go into a lot of technical details in the interest of time, but we have, particularly we are focusing on the ozone BAC, which is the heart of the advanced water purification treatment train, how to refine that, how to optimize that, how to use that to tackle even some challenges that might be in the future. Regional initiatives, I'm going to turn it over to Laura to talk about the regional initiatives and also the enhanced source control. Laura?
Okay. Thank you. So a major part of our work with the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission and Western Regional Commission is supporting on the Regional Water Management Plan. So this has included a few different tasks, including reviewing some of the chapters and helping to pull out information that is going to be incorporated into the digital tools that Kim has envisioned as a way to really modernize this effort and help to adapt it, because I'm sure you've heard her mention in past meetings that sometimes, especially with some of the fact sheets, the information that gets incorporated into it, by the time, because of the different planning levels that they're at and different stages and different likelihoods of even happening and being adopted, by the time the plan gets published in a paper document form, some of that information is going to be obsolete or not relevant anymore or needing updating. So the digital tool will really allow for this information to be updated live, be accurate, and be more usable for regional water management planning efforts in workshop and other types of environments. So in addition to reviewing the chapters, we're also working on developing this geographic information system, or GIS tool, that is kind of an information reservoir for these effluent management plans. So this has included digitalizing all of the fact sheet information so that it can be accessed through the GIS tool, as well as also linking to different important documents that are used and relevant to the effluent management scenarios as well as to the wastewater treatment plants. So that might be design reports, process flow diagrams, and other information. So a kind of a simple overview of what that GIS tool looks like. We have the map that's built off of the TMRPA map that illustrates what the different water reclamation zones are across the region. And then we built off of that color coding system and a simple coding, just what the different effluent management scenarios are and where the different wastewater treatment plants are located. And then embedded within each of those geographic locations, though, is all of the information that we have about those different scenarios or treatment facilities. And because we built this in ArcGIS, we're also able to then integrate it into the Power BI model that's being developed also as part of this effort. So I'll skip ahead a little bit to give you a kind of a preview of what the GIS, like how the fact sheet information is displayed. So here you can see that one of the alternatives, effluent management alternatives, has been selected. And because this isn't live, it's just a screenshot. You can't see all of the information in there, but it includes, 5 different documents and images. So for example, we can store information like process flow diagrams, discharge permits, photographs, aerial photographs, other important information that people might want to see when they're reviewing the plans. And that's visible in the top left-hand side of the panel. And then below that is all of the information, descriptive and quantitative information from the fact sheets about, say, the capacity of a treatment facility or a scenario, effluent management scenario, maybe what different treatment processes might be included, and all of that kind of information. So this really allows a much more user-friendly way to kind of navigate through all of those different bits of information. And then you have the advantage also of being able to see, what is the tentative location of any of these alternatives? How far might it be from a treatment facility? What might the area of impact be there? But those are just tentative and not super useful for planning, just kind of an overview. Okay, do you want to present on this? Good. Okay. We also last Thursday and Friday hosted our second annual Truckee River Watershed Symposium. So, of course, we had our keynote address by Dr. Pagila, and we had this year an agenda that included research from across the university departments, but also we were able to get information on a lot of the regional projects going on from the agencies. So we actually had Danielle and Kara from your chair people presenting. And I think this year, because we had this interesting format where we were having the interplay between the research and applied side of different management approaches and theories and the underlying science, we had a great discussion about just how these projects unfold in the Truckee River and what areas of concern there are. And I included screenshots of the agenda. You can see it was a day and a half long. We had 3 main sessions. So the first was innovation and strategies for water quality protection in the Truckee River watershed. The second was on water resource resilience. That was a lot more modeling heavy and projections for future precipitation, and how we can actually model and communicate those results to the public. And then the final session was on environmental management for water resources. So this included some of the projects around source control upstream of Reno-Sparks metropolitan area, as well as some theory like conservation and the economics of a conservation project, and some other really interesting bits of information. Okay, then next is, I'll move forward to the Enhanced Source Control Monitoring Project. So this project has a very large scope, and we're focusing on the 3 largest water reclamation facilities across the region. So you probably remember from a while ago that we had our phase 1 of the project where we conducted a review of the regional pretreatment programs and local limits. And we, had discussions with the water reclamation facility staff as well as on the environmental control side to get an understanding of where the current programs were, and then working off of frameworks that had been proposed by national organizations and guidance documents for developing potable reuse projects, we were able to identify where we would want to target efforts under each of those facilities moving forward. Of course, the largest focus for us moving in the past year has been at the Reno Stead facility, where we're working to complement the Advanced Purified Water Facility program. I imagine everyone here knows that the role of enhanced source control, that is kind of our first barrier in our treatment facility, our multi-barrier approach to a treatment facility. And so our traditional source control program is addressing pass-through pollutants that could cause damage or cause hazards to downstream communities or environments, ecosystems. And then also at the water reclamation facility in our traditional source control, we're worried about things that might inhibit the biological activity that we rely on for treatment processes. And then of course, we're also worried about things that could block or cause damage or hazards within the collection system. But then when we look to enhance source control, we're now thinking about, okay, well, our downstream concerns are not just environmental pollution, but also the drinking water regulations, as well as unregulated pollutants potentially. We're also worried about chemical precursors. So an example would be a chemical like bromide that during the ozone treatment, proposed in advanced treatment, we can form a disinfection byproduct that would then become a regulated pollutant. And then also other health-based chemicals of concern that are currently unregulated. So I already mentioned this a little bit, but we had in the phase 1, we had our first report, which you see over on the left-hand side. I think that was looks like that was in 2022. It was a while ago. And then following that, we developed draft sampling plans. But then over the past year, the focus of our work has really been in carrying out the Reno Stead baseline monitoring program, where we've been monitoring on a monthly basis a list of several hundred pollutants at the treatment facility, both in influent and effluent. As of April, we just concluded the first year of monitoring, and now we're moving into our year 2 plan, which will be developed as we finish getting the last bits of data in from the certified laboratories. But that has allowed us to also then carry out some limited monitoring across the collection system in the reservoir service area. And then on the other two, in Tumworth service area, we haven't moved forward with any actual sampling yet, but we are working closely with the team at Tumworth to get our sampling plan ready and to actually be able to start sampling within this year. And Stumworth is going to be the third one that we move on. And at Stumworth, although it has some similar, so I guess we could say Tumworth has very unique effluent requirements compared to Roseworth and Stumworth, because those are both 100% reuse facilities, although Roseworth then has this addition of the purified water program. At Stumworth, we are looking at a unique scenario where we then have they already have implemented a pretty enhanced source control program themselves to address some I&I issues. So we'll be looking at how we can complement those ongoing efforts and kind of make the most of the research opportunity as well as complement their needs for their long-term planning. So on the enhanced source control, we've our last quarterly monitoring report included 10 months of data. So it covered from April to December through December of 2024. From there, we were able to develop this pollutant watch list. So our influent-driven pollutants that were identified as being of concern are chloride, copper, and zinc, as you see there. In the case of the three of these, all three of them were flagged because they were present at concentrations above 25% of what would inhibit nitrification, which is a very essential treatment process, especially for moving to advanced potable reuse. In the case of copper and zinc, those two pollutants were already part of the existing local limits. Chloride is not regulated in wastewater. It's regulated in drinking water. So we hadn't previously had any monitoring data aside from the studies for advanced purified water at Rose Wharf that looked at chloride in that effluent. So, and we had no data on the influence. So now we have a little more information on supporting the efficacy of treatment at Rose Wharf and pollutants to be of concern from that side. On the operational side, we have bromide, which I mentioned, it's not a regulated pollutant, but it can form to bromate during ozone treatment and at the proposed advanced purification facility. So we've been actually looking at bromide, not just at Rose Wharf, but also in the drinking water to understand if that was potentially an important source going to Rose Wharf, and also looking at the upstream in the collection system, which I'll get to. But in short, what we found was that bromide was generally not even detectable in the drinking water to that service area, so we quickly were able to rule that out as an important source, and so we've been digging into the sources that could impact the collection system. Then for the effluent side, we have two different areas of importance. We have our contaminants that are regulated for irrigation under the NAC requirements. These three chemicals listed there were detected in the effluent from Rose Wharf at concentrations within 50% of the irrigation requirements. And then in the last column, you see everything that we flagged based on us having detected them in Rose Wharf effluent within 50% of the drinking water MCLs, whether primary or secondary. Of course, in the case of these constituents, additional treatment downstream, because effluent from Rose Wharf would never be used for drinking water, hopefully. Hopefully no one's going and drinking that water. But it would go to downstream treatment, and we know that the advanced water purification facility proposed would have over 90% removal of those constituents, with the exception of total dissolved solids, and then somewhat moderate removal of nitrate. So the other constituents would be very highly removed, and so they wouldn't be a concern in the actual scenario of for more than a screening purpose. So this is what we've reached as our kind of list of pollutants that should be continued for monitoring in the future. And then I think we can go a little deeper into the work that's been happening at the Rose Wharf service area for bromide. To understand the sources of bromide, we divided the collection system into 4 main areas. So you can see one is a neighborhood just kind of to the southeast of Swan Lake. One is to the north and south around Silver Lake. One is the subcatchment under the airport area. And then the last one is on the other side of that road, the area which is a largely residential subcatchment, which is Site 3 on that map, which you probably can't read. In addition to that, we wanted to understand if any of the surface or groundwaters in the area had similar water quality characteristics as far as bromide. So we also looked at Swan Lake and Silver Lake bromide concentrations, and we were also able to collect a couple of shallow groundwater samples from areas where there was either a discharging sump pump or a construction site near Silver Lake that was pumping out groundwater to be able to do their work. And what we found was actually the bromide in that shallow groundwater was a similar concentration to what we were seeing in the higher concentration areas of the collection system. You'll see so most of the sites are a purple color, the monitoring sites on the map. And so you'll see that really this site 4, where there's a yellow dot within the purple, that is kind of it's a heat map illustration showing that that's where we have seen abnormally high concentrations. Over around Silver Lake, the concentrations have been consistent and pretty low, relatively normal, I guess I should say, for bromide in the collection system. And similarly, on the other major pump station over by Swan Lake, they've been relatively normal. And so you can see in these pie charts, actually the load of bromide that we're estimating from the 2 pump stations is somewhat similar to the proportion of the flow that they're contributing. In the case of Skylift pump station, it stayed the same. Moya Lift pump station actually has very little bromide in its in that wastewater collected there. But then we have this site number 4, where even though it's a relatively small amount of flow, the bromide load coming from there is much higher. So our next steps are really digging in. We've already separated that collection system area into 2 subcatchments, but we'll be going forward with sampling at an even more granular scale to try to understand potentially if it's mostly I&I or if there is another discharger. And we've worked very closely with environmental control at City of Reno also to try to get insights into who the dischargers are and what potential sources there are on site at each of those dischargers. And I'll leave it to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Laura. Just a quick slide. This is 2 weeks ago, we hosted a workshop at Tumworth. As many of you know, that NWI has a 5-year strategic plan, which workforce development is a very critical part of that strategic plan. And we figured that we need to provide that, avenues for the staff of the agencies to, and nutrient removal within the plants has become very critical, including South Rocky Meadows, which has built another battery of Barden 4 process. So we developed a program and provided the training to the staff at Tumworth located, and it was free for all the facilities that could attend from within Northern Nevada. So we had staff from Fallon, we had staff from Incline Village GID, and they came and attended and gave very positive feedback on that. So we will continue to do these things. It's not necessarily specifically funded by any of the funds from the Western Regional Water Commission, but it's a broader context that NWI is providing to the founders. Just another shot of that, and we have a booklet if any of you are interested, and hopefully we'll continue to do these programs. I think that's all we have. We don't want to take up too much time, but we already did, I know. Thank you, and we will be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for the presentation. Appreciate it, and the work that's going in to all of these things. Obviously, the source control work that's being done is critical, just to understand where we're seeing these things, but also just knowing what we're going to need to make sure we're covering in our treatment train and how we handle that. So appreciate the work there. Any comments from the members of the commission? Anyone online? No? All right. This is the non-action item, so thank you for the report.
Thank you.
Kim, next item, number 9.
Yes, Chairman. Staff would like to request to remove item 9. We had some comments from regional partners that they'd like to take another look at the scope of work and work through some of those items before we seek approval for funding for that.
Okay. So we will move that to a future agenda item. Then let's go to item number 10, presentation on the Truckee Meadows Water Authority 2025 Water Resources Plan. Cara.
I'm just going to do the presentation from here, if everyone is okay with that.
We can hear you.
You can hear me? Okay. And Jen, if I can just let you advance the slides as I go, that would be great. So we are in the midst of our draft, or finally updating our draft 2025 to 2045 water resource plan. We presented the draft plan to our board during our April board meeting. So now it is out for public comment. So I'm going to just provide a really high-level overview with the hope that many or all of the commissioners have a chance to go through that plan and provide us with comment. That would be super helpful as we create a final plan moving through the next few months. Next slide, please, Jen. So just similar to the Regional Water Management Plan, our Water Resource Plan, or WRP, is updated every 5 years. This is the 5th version since TUM's inception in 2001. It's really similar in our format of our 2020 to 2040 plan, which was a major overhaul after our kind of previous plans. And so we've stuck with that format. This time around, we're also developing a shorter standalone version that'll sort of be like a standalone executive summary that will be optimized for online viewing, with the hopes that that will be a document that the public can really use and people can point, customers or others to that document if they have questions about the drinking water in the region. Next slide. This just provides an overview of the plan. I'm going to just briefly touch on each chapter and kind of highlights from each chapter, so we can just move to the next slide. So Chapter 1 is really just our plan introduction. It provides an overview of some of the key topics addressed throughout the plan. We're almost reaching 10 years of TROA implementation, so we talk a little bit about the successes of the implementation of TROA from TUM's perspective, talking about new service territory and regional growth, droughts and climate planning, groundwater management, future water resources, and source water protection. We also included a brief regional challenges section at the end of this chapter that kind of covers population growth, climate variability, and new regulations, and provide kind of just overarching context for a lot of the rest of the plan. Obviously, those are 3 main topics that impact how we're going to manage resources moving forward. Next slide. Chapter 2 covers our back a couple. So Chapter 2 covers our current water resources. It details basically our surface and groundwater supplies, our conjunctive management of those resources, and our water rights. So it includes updated water rights tables that look at our existing water rights, the available Truckee River water rights, and also the return flow management. And it also talks about Truckee River operations and groundwater management. We've had quite a few discussions or questions from the public and others about groundwater, so we have increased the kind of the information in that section, talking a bit more about groundwater quality and quantity, and then of course our aquifer storage and recovery program. Can you go to the graph right below this slide, please? So this is a table that we include in all of or a graph we include in our resource plan. It's been updated through 2025 now. So this is the water rights conversions of the remaining Truckee River water right, or of the Truckee River water rights under the Ore Ditch Decree. And you can see, of course, over time, those have been changing from mostly ag rights and getting converted to municipal and industrial rights. Are we not able to have it on? Oh, okay. Apologize. Lacks a little context. Can we just keep it up like that then if it won't? Next slide, please. And sorry, there's about 40,000, Eddie, correct me, Eddie Quaglieri in the audience, correct me if I'm wrong, about 40,000 remaining rights on the river that can be converted to M&I use. Okay. So though, looking at our Washoe County population and TUMA production, difficult to see up there, apologies. The green line shows population, the blue is production. You can see that even though population has been steadily increasing, water use has remained fairly constant, and we do later on have a per capita water use slide as well. Next slide, please. Chapter 3 includes our current and future planning conditions. So that's where we look at our 20-year demand projection, which is really kind of the heart of this plan, right? To make sure that we have sufficient water rights to meet our 20-year demand projection, which we do. But we also look out further into the future beyond that 20 years and look at what conditions might look like out to the end of the century. We started looking at climate models in the 2020 plan. We've used the same climate modeling that we used in that plan. We didn't have new downscaled models for this region, so we used the 8 general circulation models, the climate models for this region that were most relevant, and then we used the 2 representative concentration pathways, or RCPs, that have different climate or greenhouse gas emission scenarios. And this time around, so we used those models, and then we actually looked at expanding our aquifer storage and recovery program and how that could help decrease the potential for future shortages in some of those very far out years in the modeling we did in 2020. We also looked at paleohydrologic conditions of the Truckee River over the past 500 years. If you were at the Truckee River Watershed Symposium last week, you would have heard from the professor who presented those results. What we did was we took his results and ran it through our Truckee River operations model to see what the river would look like, or what water supply would look like over the last 500 years. So more of an interesting exercise than a planning exercise, but we have some of the results here on the next slide.
Cara, I'd just like to, on the comment for that, I mean, obviously that's part of the benefits of the work that we're doing with and having the Truckee River Symposium, bringing the university, bringing all of our agencies together, because we understand that there is more data sets out there, more information available, and we can utilize those, even if it is just an interesting exercise in this case, to see what things have happened in the past. 500 years is a lot bigger window than what we had before.
Totally, yeah. Thanks, John. That's a great comment. This is our 20-year demand projection. This is just for Tumwa's demand. So, of course, the regional water management plan projection is higher than this, but we're looking at about 107,000 acre feet by 2045. Next slide, please. So this is the paleohydrologic modeling. This graph is the Lake Tahoe elevation over the last 500 years. Again, as though all of the reservoirs and current Troa River operations were in place. So just kind of an interesting exercise. You can see that in the late 1400s, early 1500s, there was a really severe drought. The red line in the kind of in the center is the natural rim. So when the blue elevation goes below that, we're not getting any river flow into the Truckee River out of the Tahoe Dam. So you can see in the late 1400s, early 1500s, there was a significant drought period, again, kind of in the late 1700s, and then, of course, the Dust Bowl drought in the early 1900s. So we see that basically there's always been a lot of variability on the Truckee River system over the last 500 years. We expect to see it be more variable in the future, and we actually don't see some of these more severe droughts. We actually see the worst climate models kind of representing something even worse than what we saw in those 1500s years. So we feel like it at least bolsters our confidence that when we're stress testing the system with the climate models, that we are capturing adequate amount of variability for future droughts. Next slide, please. So I didn't include too much detail on the climate modeling. It's quite similar to our last round. This basically is the moderate emission scenario, or RCP 4.5. It shows the mixture of how we would meet water demand. So looking at our Truckee River resources, our groundwater resources, and then our reservoir storage. And you can see in the later years in this model, there were a few shortages. Basically this shows the worst out of the 8 different climate models we used. It pulls the worst year from each. So this is really, I think it was maybe like 6 years out of 280 years we see these shortages. So it is kind of a worst case scenario, but we do want to look at how we could potentially mitigate these shortages in the future with good water management planning. So if you go to the next slide, please. This graph shows that there are no shortages if we expand our aquifer storage and recovery program. It's again, difficult to see on here, but basically it shows that we can use ASR to meet demand in those later out years when we have a higher overall demand and we're in a drought period. So we are continuing to pursue expansion of that program and, of course, other water banking efforts like advanced purified water. Next slide, please. So Chapter 4 includes our conservation strategies. We have also received permission from the state to move this forward as Tumwa's Water Conservation Plan in accordance with NRS. So it provides an overview of Tumwa's strategies to manage water loss and demand, and it also includes our drought contingency plan to address basically varying levels of drought conditions. Next slide. So per capita water demand, like I promised, this is, kind of reflects the graph we saw earlier. You can see that per capita water demand, which is presented in the orange color, has been decreasing or stabilizing over time. We presented it in two different ways, which is very difficult to see here. But the top orange line is basically the total per capita demand, so including basically all water use. And then we also wanted to kind of make ours more comparable to how Southern Nevada Water Authority looks at their demand, and so we also looked at consumptive use. And so there is a very difficult to see line below the darker orange line, and that shows basically a percentage of the water making it back into the Truckee River through Tum Wharf. So a little bit of a different perspective this time to show both of those water demands. Next slide. And then our future water resources chapter is very similar to the 2020 plan. These are kind of just a list of potential projects, including additional groundwater capacity, mostly dealing with water quality issues, additional creek water resources, Martlet Lake water system, reclaimed water, advanced purified water. We do focus on the potential for direct potable reuse as a future resource in this plan, which is a new addition. Also, again, water banking projects and other conceptual resources. Again, this is one of Tumwa's plans. This is not, it doesn't go into detail about the technical aspects of these potential resources. This just kind of lays the groundwork of these are possible resources we could use in the future. Next slide. So protecting the watershed and environment is Chapter 6. This highlights Tumwa's partnerships to protect and improve the region's sources of supply from a quality perspective. So it looks at our existing programs like the Truckee River Fund. Also highlights a lot of the partnerships that have formed in the last 5 to 10 years, including the Middle Truckee River Watershed Forest Partnership, our work with the One Truckee River Partnership Council. We are involved in a Donner Interagency Partnership for Stewardship to protect Donner Lake, and also of course, our Washoe County Integrated Source Water Protection Plan also provides an overview of Tumwa's hydroelectric plants. Okay, and lastly, Chapter 7 is our recommended actions chapter. This breaks our recommended actions into 3 categories: water resource planning, management of current water resources, and future demand and resources. All of our recommended actions have been included in this plan and updated from our previous plan. And based on board feedback, we are going to probably increase the level of detail in that recommended action section. Next slide. And we also did add 2 new recommended actions that came out of a board workshop we held in August of 2024 to discuss policies and these recommended actions for the water resource plan. And these ones are basically just, one is Tumwa regional influence and one is wastewater utility consolidation. So these just basically recognize the importance of Tumwa's involvement of these regional water management issues and recommend that Tumwa continues to be involved basically in the planning and analysis of these efforts. It doesn't provide direct recommended actions in regard to either of these items, just that Tumwa should be involved. And then last slide is, so our public outreach schedule, as I mentioned, we have an online public comment period open right now. We also will be presenting at Smart About Water Day this coming Saturday at Idlewild Park. We'll have a short session on the water resource plan. And then we have 2 public in-person sessions in June at the Sparks Library and at the South Library, and then also a webinar. So please feel free to send that around if you know anyone that might be interested. And then again, we will be developing that shorter at-a-glance executive summary before this goes to approval to our board. We're expecting, hoping for approval, final approval by our board in October of 2025. And there is the URL. It's tomoa.com/WRP2025 if you would like to see the draft plan and provide comment. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for the overview and for the plan. Any questions for Cara from members, commissioners? Any online? All right. Appreciate the information. Thank you so much. This is a non-action item, so we'll move to the next item, Program Manager's Report. Kim.
Thank you, Chairman. Kim Rigdon for the record. Members of the Commission, it's been a long meeting, so I'll keep this one brief. It's our easy quarterly report on the Regional Water Management Fund activities and the projects that we fund. Just a couple of highlights on item 11A. Data Instincts facilitated tours to the Orange County Water District and the Albert Robles Learning Center. We had 20 participants on that. It was one of our largest groups that we had taken. They did an excellent job again, introducing many of our new commissioners and members of the Western Regional Water Commission Board to the concepts of advanced purified water and water recycling. They also updated the One Water Nevada website. They did some significant updates to that. And they gave a presentation to the Western Regional Water Commission in April. Of course, I was going to say the Nevada Water Innovation Institute hosted the Watershed Symposium, the Truckee River Watershed Symposium on May 1st and 2nd. You've already heard about that, so I won't belabor that update. One of our projects is to coordinate and collaborate with the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Agency. They completed their regional plan update and found our regional water management plan in conformance with their plan. We worked with them to do that. They did give us some comments to address some of the new policies that I have in the update of our plan. So we'll be working with the team to do that this go-round. Item 11B is the third quarter revenue and expense report. Nothing earth-shattering here. We do have currently $3.3 million cash in our bank account, and we are on track with revenues exceeding expenses for the last 3 quarters. So we don't see any concerns moving forward with our budget being approved in May by the WRWC for fiscal year 26. We're positioned very well. And with that, I'll take some questions, Chairman.
All right. Any questions for Kim on the manager's report? Appreciate the summary that was provided. Thank you. Seeing no comments. Thank you for that report. We'll move down to item number 12, discussion possible direction to staff regarding agenda items, meeting dates, and locations for future Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission meetings. Kim.
Thank you, Chairman. Members of the Commission, Kim Rigdon for the record. June 4th at 1:30 in the Washoe County Chambers is our next Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission meeting. We will bring back the Nevada Water Innovation Regional Water Management and Coordination Scope of Work proposal for review and approval, and engage some of our partners to make sure that we have that scope of work prepared and ready for approval. We're hoping to do project updates. I have a few on the screen that we would like to bring. We still have to confirm with those project leads to make sure that they have availability, but we're planning to bring a Sierra Nevada Journey, STEM education update, and some stormwater permit coordinating committee activity updates to the next meeting. We'll also bring a report on the kickoff to the regionalization of wastewater facility feasibility study that we're going to be kicking off in June. So we'll bring a report. I don't have the meeting scheduled yet, but hopefully I'll have something to provide an update on that. Thank you, Chairman.
All right, thank you. And so we have the proposed date here for next meeting, June 4th. Do we have any other items that we would like to see included in this agenda or a future agenda? Seeing none, may I have a motion?
Move to approve.
All right, motion from Commissioner Melton. Do I have a second?
Second, Crump.
Second from Commissioner Crump for the June 4th, 2025 meeting at 1:30 here in the chambers. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay? Motion carries. All right, we'll move to item number 13. Nomination and election of chair and vice chair of the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission for the term of May 7th, 2025 to March 31st, 2026.
Thank
Kim.
you. Thank you, Chairman. Kim Rigdon for the record. Members of the commission, this is going to be our chairman's favorite agenda item for the day. So per the Western Regional Water Commission Act, our board elections are to be held annually for the position of chair and vice chair. The chair position must rotate annually. However, the act is silent on the vice chair position. All 12 seats have served as chair at least once, so we're on our second rotation, where 5 seats have now served twice. I have up on the screen the seats that are eligible for chair nomination, and with that, I'll leave it up to the board to go ahead and discuss the nomination and election.
All right. Thank you, Kim. Not always, but often, we have the vice chair rotate into the chair position. And I would actually like to nominate Casey Mincer as the chair for this next term. But would open that up to discussion from the commission. Then I'll just make a motion. I'll move that Casey Mincer become the chair of the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission for the next term, and seek a second.
Second.
Commissioner Crump will give us a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries. Thank you. We now have the nomination for vice chair for this next coming section. Do we have any nominations for that? Future Chair Mincer.
I would like to entertain a motion to nominate Chris Melton from Sun Valley General Improvement District to be the vice chair of the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission.
Excellent. So we have a nomination for vice chair of Chris Melton from Sun Valley, and we'll have a second from Michael Widmer, just Commissioner Widmer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries. We have a new chair and a new vice chair. Congratulations, gentlemen.
Thank you.
I'll turn the gavel over.
Thank you, Commissioner Flansburgh. All right, so the next item is item number 14, commissioner comments. Do we have any commissioner comments? I guess I wanted to echo Commissioner Flansburgh's comments from earlier by welcoming Amber Sosa to the board. I've been able to work with Amber for almost a decade now at the City of Sparks. I think that she is an exceptional engineer, and I am very excited that she will be able to provide her expertise and perspective to this board. So, and the last comment that I wanted to make too, I wanted to also echo Commissioner Flansburgh's perspective of the collaborations that we've been able to have with the University of Nevada, Reno and the Nevada Water Innovation Institute. I think that the regional leadership that they've been able to provide us has been exceptional. I know that we certainly at Tom Wharf have benefited, tremendously from the work that they've done and the research that they've been able to accomplish, and it has certainly advanced our efforts and our goals and objectives. So I just wanted to recognize them today. So, any other comments? All right, hearing none, moving on to item number 15, staff comments. Ms. Rigdon.
No staff comments, Chairman. Thank you very much.
All right, moving on to item number 16 then, public comments. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak right now? Do we have any? Nope, no comments online. All right. Closing item number 16 for public comment. That moves us on to adjournment. Do I need a motion? All right. Item number 17, adjournment.